How does a country with uh, digital systems crashing, massive administrative bottlenecks and completely parched agricultural lands, suddenly find itself as the single most favorably viewed nation in its entire region?
Yeah, it's quite the paradox.
It really is. So that is the contradiction we are unpacking today. Welcome to RTV Global Network for our daily deep dive. Today is Friday, August 21st, 2026, and I'm Alex.
And I'm Sam.
Today's mission is a big one. We are taking a massive stack of news from the wires, both local and international, and we're looking past the surface level headlines.
Right.
We really want to understand the mechanics of what is happening. We are tracing the intercepting lines of cultural loss, systemic infrastructural friction, and some truly massive global economic shifts that are quietly rewriting the rules of the board.
Because, if you just read the news item by item, it just feels like chaos.
Oh, absolutely.
But when you map these sources out, you start to see the actual friction points. You see exactly how administrative fatigue, global economics, and human resilience are all colliding in real time.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we have to start today's deep dive with a profound national sense of loss. Sri Lanka is a nation in mourning following the passing of veteran vocalist Visharada Dr. Nanda Malini at the age of 82. The government has declared 3 days of national mourning, starting today through Sunday, August 23rd. Her final rites are scheduled for Saturday at the Nanda Malini Music Academy.
Calling her a singer almost feels like an understatement.
Yeah.
She was the cultural bedrock of the nation for generations. Her voice scored the lives of millions.
Right.
3 days of national mourning is really a reflection of a country collectively pausing to recognize that a monumental chapter of its shared heritage has just permanently closed.
It is a heavy collective pause. But, as the nation braces for that anticipated communal grief, we are also looking at the latest reports and seeing the sudden, incredibly jarring local tragedies that offer absolutely no time to prepare.
Oh, right.
Just early this morning, there was a horrific collision between a tipper truck and a tractor at Colombo Bridge in Monaragala.
That was awful.
5 young lives were lost, and 8 others are seriously injured.
The contrast there is incredibly stark. With a cultural icon, the grief is about the closing of a celebrated legacy. You have time to process it.
Yeah, exactly.
But a traffic accident of this magnitude, taking youth so suddenly, that's an entirely different kind of communal shock. It is immediate, and it is devastating.
Okay, let's unpack this. If you think about it, losing a cultural icon is like finishing a brilliant, internationally celebrated novel. You are deeply sad that it is over, but the legacy is complete. The sudden loss of 5 young lives at Colombo Bridge. That is like having the book violently ripped out of your hands right in the middle of the very first chapter.
Wow, yeah.
Both leave a distinct void, but one is a completed legacy, and the other is a brutally truncated future.
That is a very precise way to look at it. It really highlights the sheer fragility of everyday life. And it is worth noting that the community absorbing this sudden loss, Monaragala, is already under immense slow-moving pressure.
Right.
They are currently the absolute epicenter of a severe environmental crisis.
You are talking about the severe dry weather sweeping the nation.
Precisely. Across 7 districts right now, over 81,000 people are actively affected by severe drought.
That's huge.
And of that number, over 33,000 are in Monaragala alone. The land there is completely parched. The agricultural systems are incredibly stressed.
But wait, at the exact same time, we're seeing reports from the Anawilandawa Ramsar Wetland, which, for those who don't know, is an internationally recognized biodiversity hotspot.
Right.
And a massive fire has broken out there. It is so severe they've had to mobilize the Tri-Forces and military helicopters just to try and save it.
Yeah.
I have to push back here on how we are framing these events. We have lands completely starved for water and simultaneously military helicopters dropping water to fight massive wetland fires. Are these wild environmental extremes just the new normal we have to accept?
What's fascinating here is how these massive environmental swings immediately translate into highly unpredictable public health realities.
Okay, how so?
Well, you would think a drought is purely an agricultural crisis, but it actively changes the disease landscape.
Oh,
For instance, because of the severe dry weather, combined with some very aggressive mosquito control measures, daily dengue cases have actually dropped by an incredible 80%.
Wait, really? An 80% drop in a disease that usually cripples the healthcare system is a massive win. That should be front-page celebration news.
It should be. But just as that environmental pressure valve releases, a systemic one bursts. Public health inspectors, the PHIs, are currently on a nationwide sick leave strike.
Oh, wow.
And it is over a dispute regarding transfers.
Let me get this straight. We finally get a handle on a major vector-borne disease, but the human infrastructure designed to monitor public health steps away from the dashboard over an administrative transfer dispute.
Exactly. The biological threat recedes, but the administrative framework meant to capitalize on that victory is paralyzed.
Which leads us perfectly into a much broader theme running through today's stack of sources. We are seeing this kind of systemic friction, infrastructural fatigue really happening across almost every sector of the country right now. It is not just the health inspectors.
Not at all. If you look at the sheer volume of administrative hurdles reported today, it paints a picture of a system under immense strain. Let's look at the legal and justice framework.
I mean, even for everyday citizens, police clearance services have been entirely suspended due to a system outage.
Right.
It is a complete digital roadblock. If you need a job or a visa, you are just stuck. Meanwhile, at the highest levels of governance, the proposed 22nd Amendment is causing massive friction. Both the Catholic Bishops' Conference and the Bar Association of Sri Lanka are expressing deep concerns specifically regarding judicial retirement ages and how the amendment will impact the existing backlog of court cases.
Now, we must maintain strict neutrality on the politics of the 22nd Amendment itself. We aren't taking a side on the legislation.
Right, absolutely.
But from a purely analytical standpoint, we have to look at why this is causing such alarm. The debate highlights a critical tension.
Which is?
How does a legal system restructure its highest courts and retirement ages while it is simultaneously drowning in unresolved cases? If you alter the tenure of the judges handling these cases, you risk stalling a system that is already moving too slowly.
And when the courts move slowly, that strain trickles all the way down the pipe into the corrections infrastructure. And we are absolutely seeing that pressure build.
Yeah, we really are.
Today's reports show a joint emergency response mechanism had to be established at the Matara prison. Meanwhile, security is being heavily tightened at both Mahara and Negombo prisons following recent unrest. When the justice system bottlenecks, the physical prisons overfill, and the tension inside those walls reaches a boiling point.
Add to that the fact that the courts are currently navigating a barrage of highly complex, high-profile cases.
Right. Just today, we are seeing updates on Wimal Wirawansa's wife, Shashi, being granted bail pending a Supreme Court appeal over alleged passport fraud. Yeah.
A former Akaraipatu mayor has been remanded over serious allegations of rape. And then there is a deeply tragic report of a police officer who allegedly committed suicide at Venyanasara Thero's temple.
That's just awful.
You look at the breadth of these issues, from political fraud to horrific local crimes to the mental health of the officers policing it all, and the weight on the system is obvious.
And it isn't just the justice system. The administrative fatigue is in the energy sector, too. We are seeing reports that national coal procurement tenders were based on rough estimates rather than the actual calculated requirements of the power plants.
Wait, guessing how much coal a national power grid needs, that feels deeply precarious.
It does.
So I have to ask, with all these systems seemingly blinking red at the exact same time, prisons tightening security, courts backlogged, digital clearances crashing, and coal tenders being basically guesstimated, are we looking at a temporary glitch in governance? Or is this the actual machinery of the state wearing thin? It strongly points toward deep infrastructural fatigue. When procurement is based on estimates rather than hard data, and digital services are just offline, it suggests administrative systems that are operating purely in survival mode.
Wow, yeah.
They're reacting to the daily crises rather than preventing them.
And who pays the ultimate price when a country's systems operate in survival mode? The most vulnerable demographics. Let's pivot to how these bottlenecks are impacting youth and everyday consumers. Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarazaria made some very pointed statements regarding the education system today.
She did. She highlighted a massive and growing challenge, keeping boys in the school system beyond the age of 16.
Right.
Furthermore, she stressed that children across the board are facing extreme academic pressure and desperately need their school holidays just to physically and mentally recover.
It really paints a picture of an education system that feels more like a high-stakes pressure cooker than a launch pad for a future career. And the vulnerability of children was further underscored by a highly disturbing viral video today, which thankfully led to the swift arrest of a man for assaulting a 4-year-old girl and a 7-year-old boy.
That vulnerability extends straight into the marketplace as well. We saw a business in Colombo hit with a 300,000 rupee fine today for selling substandard helmets and expired baby milk.
Expired baby milk and helmets that literally will not protect your brain in a crash. You cannot get more fundamental to baseline human safety than that.
No, you can't.
It shows a level of desperation or negligence in the market that is terrifying. Though, to be fair, on a positive note for consumers, the government is introducing a new certification program specifically for chemical-free fruits.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, academic pressure, the dropout rates of 16-year-old boys, child safety, and even those basic consumer protections all tie directly into the future workforce and the foundational stability of the society.
Oh, absolutely.
You cannot build a modern tech-driven economy if a significant portion of your male youth is dropping out of the system before they finish their basic education. Or if the children are entirely burnt out before they even reach adulthood. That is a demographic time bomb.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Despite all of this internal domestic friction, the health strikes, the system outages, the educational dropout rates, the global perception, and the macroeconomic indicators for Sri Lanka right now tell an incredibly resilient, almost totally contradictory story.
The international metrics are surprisingly robust.
A new Pew survey just dropped a fascinating statistic. Sri Lanka is currently the only South Asian country that is viewed favorably by all of its neighbors. Not a majority of them, all of them.
From a diplomatic and economic standpoint, that is a massive strategic advantage. In a geopolitical region as complex and historically fractured as South Asia, being the single point of consensus is incredibly valuable. And we are seeing active diplomatic movements to capitalize on that goodwill. The U.S. Ambassador-designate Eric Meyer met with Sri Lanka's charge d'affaires in Washington, D.C. recently.
Meanwhile, domestically, President Dissanayake is actively discussing expediting land releases in the north and east while publicly calling for scientific research to be the primary driver of economic growth.
Right.
And the economic indicators reflect that forward momentum. Over 1.3 million tourists have arrived so far in 2026. The country has climbed the Institute of International Finance Global Investor Relations rankings. Climbing that ranking essentially means the global financial community trusts the data and the direction of the country more than they used to, and the national export strategy is pivoting toward higher volume and scale.
It is a remarkable dichotomy. You have a domestic infrastructure that is struggling with administrative basics like coal estimates and police clearances, yet the macroeconomic and diplomatic engines are running hot. Even the stock market shows this complex, layered reality.
Right. Looking at the markets, the ASPI, our benchmark index, is holding steady at around 21,400 despite 3 straight days of market weakness where indices closed in the red.
Yeah.
We're seeing mixed corporate results, too. Amana Bank saw its second quarter profit rise by 33%, and Haley's just secured an S&P B+ rating with a stable outlook. But then you have a company like JAT Holdings, where profits have stalled completely despite a 34% growth in revenue.
And that JAT Holdings report is the perfect microcosm of the entire economy right now. Stalled profits, despite a massive 34% jump in revenue, almost always points to rising operational costs.
Right, because of the friction.
And why are operational costs rising? It loops us right back to the infrastructural friction we discussed earlier.
Yes.
When energy estimates are off, when systems crash, doing business gets more expensive. It needs the top-line growth.
That makes total sense.
But to truly understand Sri Lanka's economic stabilization, we have to look outward. Because there are massive economic and political shockwaves happening internationally right now that will inevitably ripple back to local shores.
Absolutely. The global newswire today is heavy. In China, the founder of the embattled property giant Evergrande, Hui Kai-yan, has been jailed for life.
That essentially puts a grim final punctuation mark on a real estate collapse that literally shook the global financial system. Evergrande was so massive that its failure redefined how the world views Chinese real estate debt.
And speaking of debt, in the United States, the numbers are almost too large to comprehend. The U.S. national debt has officially surpassed $40 trillion. It has effectively doubled in just a single decade.
Wow.
Add to that the geopolitical tension, with former President Trump threatening, and I quote, tremendous economic consequences for any countries that assist Iran.
Again, staying strictly neutral in the politics of the U.S. election and foreign policy, we have to look at the sheer scale of a $40 trillion debt and how it functions.
I want to make sure we understand the mechanism here, because it's so easy to just say 40 trillion and have eyes glaze over. We often hear national debt compared to a household maxing out credit cards, but that's not really accurate, is it? Sovereign debt doesn't work like personal debt.
Not at all. A much better analogy is to view the U.S. economy like a massive, globally dominant corporation that constantly issues its own stock.
Okay.
As long as the rest of the world fundamentally believes in the strength and future of that corporation, they will keep buying the stock, in this case treasury bonds, and the debt is manageable. But if that trust wavers, or if the sheer volume of the stock dilutes its value, the cost of doing business globally skyrockets.
So what happens to the rest of the global neighborhood if the biggest corporation on the block starts struggling under that weight?
This raises an important question regarding sovereign debt globally. Emerging markets often rely on the stability of the U.S. dollar. If that $40 trillion debt load forces the U.S. to aggressively raise interest rates to keep buyers interested, it creates a vacuum. Capital flies out of developing nations and back to the U.S., making the debt of emerging markets far more expensive and harder to manage.
And the regulatory landscape globally is shifting aggressively, too. Australia just passed a landmark law that forces tech giants to actually pay local media outlets for the news they distribute.
That's a big deal.
This isn't just an Australian issue. If this model proves successful, it could fundamentally change the economics of the internet globally, including right here at home.
It is a precedent-setting move that redefines the value of local journalism in the digital age.
And woven through these massive macroeconomic shockwaves are reports of profound global tragedy and instability. Over 100 people are dead following an artisanal gold mine collapse in the Central African Republic.
Wow, that's terrible.
In Liberia, the former vice president has been formally charged with drug trafficking. And in India, there is an incredibly disturbing story out of Telangana where a young boy stabbed his principal 27 times. Investigators are saying his lavish, unsustainable lifestyle is what ultimately led to his downfall.
Whether it is a former vice president allegedly involved in international drug cartels, a corporate billionaire jailed for life in China, or a horrific tragedy in a school in India driven by a lavish lifestyle, we are seeing systems of accountability being violently tested all over the world.
It is heavy, and honestly, it can be overwhelming, which is why, historically, nations turn to the sporting field. It's where we blow off steam, where the rules are clear, and where we find our heroes.
And today's SportsWire offers a real mix of agonizing setbacks and absolute triumphs.
Starting with the setbacks, the national cricket team took a heavy blow. India has taken a 1-0 lead in their series after a crushing 165-run test win in Galley.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a loss, it was a momentum killer. To add injury to insult, Chandimal is hurt and has been replaced by Pasindu, and the match ended in a bit of an anticlimax following a very costly blunder by Dickwella.
A tough day for cricket fans, undoubtedly. You can feel the frustration when a match slips away due to unforced errors. But the football pitch told a very, very different story.
It was absolute, unmitigated domination. Blue Star utterly crushed New Young's 5-0.
Wow.
And it wasn't just a team win, it was powered by an incredible hat-trick from Audu Frankie. He put on an absolute masterclass, and Seahawks cruised to a very comfortable 2-0 victory over defenders.
But the absolute highlight of the day, the news that transcends local leagues and lifts the entire sporting profile of the nation globally, comes from track and field.
Yes, Ramesh Tharanga has officially climbed to world #1 in men's javelin. Let that sink in. Out of everyone on the planet, he is at the absolute top of the rankings.
That's just phenomenal.
And he is not resting on his laurels for a second. He has publicly stated that his sights are firmly set on bringing Sri Lanka an Olympic gold medal.
It is an incredible achievement, and when you think about it in the context of our entire conversation today, it requires immense singular dedication to reach the global stage, especially when you consider the administrative and systemic hurdles local athletes often have to navigate just to get basic funding and training facilities.
So what does this all mean? We started today talking about the deep collective loss of an irreplaceable musical legend in Dr. Nanda Malini, and the devastating, sudden local tragedies on our roads. We moved through parched earth in Monaragala, wetland fires, and the deeply frustrating friction of crashing digital systems, striking health workers, and administrative red tape. Yet we end by looking at a nation that is somehow viewed favorably by all its regional neighbors, pulling in over 1 million tourists and producing the literally #1 ranked javelin thrower on the entire planet, all while global superpowers are drowning in $40 trillion of debt.
It is a profound study in contrasts, a country operating simultaneously in administrative survival mode and global ascendancy. And leaves us with something vital to consider.
What's that?
As this nation pushes aggressively toward the future, aiming for Olympic golds, striving for tech-driven economic growth, and successfully courting regional diplomatic favor, how does it ensure it doesn't lose its soul in the process? When the cultural bedrock of the past, irreplaceable icons like Nanda Malini begins to fade away, Can a country truly modernize its systems without leaving its deepest heritage behind?
That is the ultimate tightrope walk. Thank you for joining us for today's deep dive. Keep questioning the headlines, look for the connections hidden just beneath the surface, and we will see you next time.